Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So we are looking at the 8th Mahajan in this session, who is none other than Janaka Maharaj. So just a little recap. So Mahajan means great soul, and these empowered souls are they're given the responsibility, or they're empowered by the Lord to give us transcendental instructions so we can follow in their footsteps, follow their instructions, and reach perfection in this very lifetime. So the Mahajans are exalted devotees of the Lord, and this is why we are going to consider the glories of Janaka Maharaj in this session. So who is Janaka Maharaj? He is the king of Mithila, who ruled over the Videha kingdom in the 7th century. So we can see here, we can see Mithila. So Mithila is currently known as Janakpur in the land of Nepal. So just as we have Lord Brahma, we have Indradev. Now, they are these are posts. So the name Janaka is actually a post, which means that it's not the same individual every time who is the ruler of Mithila. Every time there is a new living entity who takes up this position, this post. So Janaka is a post. So the rulers of Mithila are called Janaka. And all the kings of the dynasty of Mithila were completely in knowledge of their spiritual identity. So they were like Raja Rishis. So King Janaka is known as a Raja Rishi, a royal sage. So he was not just ruling the kingdom, but he had spiritual education. He was an exalted devotee of the Lord. And he, King Janaka, he acquired knowledge of the Vedas and Shastras. He perfected the Karma Yoga system and carried out all his duties perfectly. So he attained perfection by performing Karma Yoga. So attained perfection solely by performance of his prescribed duties. So we know there are different souls who attain perfection by doing different devotional activities. For example, we know Bali Maharaj attained perfection by surrendering everything to Krishna. So King Janaka he was an exalted devotee of the Lord. He had no material attachment. He would just do his duties but offer them to the Supreme Lord. Even great sages used to go to learn from him about spiritual affairs. So he was such a great personality, although he was a king and a grihastha. And that's very inspiring to us, because most of us in this world, we are grihasthas. We have families and children and jobs, but we can still perfect our life by following in the footsteps of King Janaka, where he had no attachment to the results of his work. He would offer them to Krishna, to the Lord, and he would offer all his work to the Lord. So it's interesting to see how the first Janaka was born. So there's different Janakas, as we said. These are rulers of Mithila, and Kshiradwaj Janaka is the father of Sita Devi. So we all know the Sita Devi, her father is King Janaka, and so this is the Janaka called Kshiradwaj Janaka. So how was the first Janaka born? And that was very unusual way, from the dead body of his father, Maharaj Nimi, by the churning of his father's dead body. So the Srimad Bhagavatam tells us how this happened. So let's read from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So there was a king called Maharaj Nimi. He was the son of Ikshvaku. Maharaj Nimi once wanted to perform sacrifices. He requested the great sage Vasishtha to become his chief priest. However, Vasishtha replied, "My dear king, I have already accepted this post in a sacrifice that has been inaugurated by Lord Indra. Kindly wait for me, for I shall return here after finishing his sacrifice." So Maharaj Nimi, when he heard this, he gave no reply, and Vasishtha departed so that he could perform Indra's sacrifice. Now, being a self-realized soul, Maharaj Nimi knew just how flickering one's life is. Therefore, instead of waiting for a long time for Vasishtha to return, he began the sacrifice by engaging other priests. Because of this, when Vasishtha returned after completing Indra's sacrifice, he found that his disciple Nimi had disobeyed his instructions. For this reason, Vasishtha cursed him, saying, "May the material body of Nimi, who considers himself very learned, immediately drop dead." Now, thinking that he had been unnecessarily cursed and had not committed any offense, Maharaj Nimi counter-cursed his spiritual master. He said, "Because of being greedy to receive remuneration from the King of Heaven, you have lost your good intelligence. You have lost your religious intelligence. Therefore, I pronounce this curse. May your body also fall." So that was the counter-cursing that happened. And now the priest that had performed Maharaj Nimi's sacrifice, they preserved his body in fragrant substances. And at the end of the yagya, the Satra Yaga, they requested the demigods that had assembled there, "If you are satisfied with this sacrifice, and if you are able to do so, then please bring Maharaj Nimi back to life in the same body." And so what happened next? The demigods gave their consent, because without a king, the people were in danger of an unregulated government. And we know without a king, rogues, they feel free to harass the citizens. So the sages were very concerned about this. And so that's why they requested the demigods to bring Maharaj Nimi back to life. The demigods, they agreed, and they brought the soul of Maharaj Nimi back into his body. But then Maharaj Nimi said, "Please do not imprison me in a material body. I do not wish to accept a material body, for it is the source of all distress, lamentation, and fear, no matter where one may be within the universe." So Maharaj Nimi refused, because he preferred to be in Vaikuntha, in his spiritual body. He didn't want to come back to this material world. Then the demigods declared, "Let Maharaj Nimi live without a material body. Let him become a personal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In his spiritual body, he can manifest himself or remain unmanifest to the common embodied people as he so desires." And so what they did then is, to save the citizens from the danger of being without a ruler, the sages churned Maharaj Nimi's material body, and as a result, a son was born. And due to the unusual circumstances surrounding his birth, the child received the name Janaka, that means born uncommonly. And because he was born from his father's dead body, he was also known as Vaideha. Due to being born from the churning of his father's body, he received the name Mithila. And when he later on constructed a capital city, it became known as Mithila. So that's the unusual way in which the very first Janaka of Mithila was born. In the 20th generation after Mithila appeared, Kshiradhwaj Janaka, who was also called Janaka, he took over. And so now we're going to look at the story of how Kshiradhwaj Janaka was plowing a field and found Sita Devi. So he's called Kshiradhwaj because he was plowing a field, and in front of his plow, called a Shira, Sita Devi appeared. So let's look at the story. So one day, there was a great drought that afflicted Mithila, and the inhabitants were very stricken by grief because they couldn't grow plants anymore and the cows were suffering. So they went to the king, Kshiradhwaj Janaka, and they requested him to run a plough through the parched land of Mithila so as to save the kingdom, because it was believed that if a ruler who was righteous, incorruptible, dispassionate, righteous ruler, if he did that, then that would bring blessings to the kingdom in the form of showers from the heavens. So basically that would bring rain. So he agreed, and he went to the field and he started plowing with his plow, the Shira. And as he did that, he hit upon a metallic container, and when he took it out, he saw a beautiful baby girl, and that was Sita Devi. Now King Janaka was childless, and so his wife Sunaina was so ecstatic when he brought back home this beautiful baby girl. And so they raised her as their own child. King Janaka and his wife Sunaina, they were very, very happy to raise this little girl. So that was Bhakti Devi, Sita Devi, who chose to accept King Janaka as her father. So we can understand that if Sita Devi, who is none other than Bhakti Devi, accepted King Janaka, that means he must be really exalted, pure devotee, because Sita Devi wouldn't appear there otherwise. So we know that. So we know what happens to Sita as she grew up. Now she needed to be married to somebody. So now Sita Devi, King Janaka had found out, was not an ordinary girl. One day when she's still a baby, she moved a table that contained the great bow of Lord Shiva. And that bow nobody could lift up because it was so heavy. And it's the divine bow of Lord Shiva. But Sita Devi, even when she was a baby, easily moved that table upon which the bow was. So King Janaka understood that since no ordinary person could lift the bow, that Sita Devi was a very powerful child, and she needed to have a husband who was equally or even more powerful than her. So he organized, when Sita Devi grew up, he organized a Swayamvara ceremony, which was an ancient custom where princes from all the different kingdoms would come and win over the hand of the princess by their strength or by passing a test set by the king. So King Janaka set a test. So he put a bow on the table, Lord Shiva's bow, and he said that whoever could lift Lord Shiva's bow would be a worthy husband to his daughter Sita. None of the princes assembled there could lift it, let alone tie the string to the other end. And then Lord Ramachandra made his appearance, and he easily picked up that bow that was so heavy that it was carried by 300 men. He easily picked it up, he bent it and strung it and even broke it in the middle, just as a baby elephant breaks a stick of sugarcane. So King Janaka was very, very happy to give his daughter Sita Devi to Lord Ramachandra. And so in this way, Lord Ramachandra became the father-in-law, became the son-in-law of Janaka Maharaj. So we can see how exalted Janaka Maharaj is, that he got the association of Lord Ram and could interact with Lord Ram as a son-in-law, as a father-in-law to Lord Ram. He was very intimate, in close association with Lord Ram. So he's very, very exalted. Now there is a story which shows the wisdom of King Janaka. Now one day there was a wandering monk who visited Mithila, and so he inquired, "Who is the best teacher around here?" He asked around, and to his surprise, every spiritual person around in that town of Mithila referred to him the name of King Janaka. They said King Janaka is the most spiritually advanced person here. Now the monk was very puzzled and furious. He was thinking to himself, how can a king be spiritually elevated? Surely these people are not very intelligent. They have no clue what spirituality is all about, they thought. He thought that if they're naming a king who is very, in general, very materialistic person attached to wealth, opulence, enjoyment, if they think a king is the best spiritual person, these people must be very ignorant. But so he decided, let me just go and visit this king. So he went to visit the king. The king welcomed him very nicely, and but before the king could bring him to take him to dinner or anything, the monk, who was burning to ask the question, asked the king, "How can you, a worldly man of pleasures, be more spiritual than those who have given up their everything for the sake of knowing the highest truth?" He said to him, "Oh, all the learned people around here speak very highly of you. Please explain to me how this is possible." So he was thinking that the highest spiritual person should be a monk like himself, who has dedicated their whole life to worshipping the Lord and who is renounced. So he asked this question to the king, hoping that he would answer, but the king didn't say anything. He just took him to the royal dinner table, presented the monk with a variety of food, dishes, pleased the monk, and then brought him to a spacious room, a bedroom, to rest for the night. And there was a huge sword that hung from the ceiling just above the bed where the pillows were, where the monk was lying. So the monk said, what is this? And the king said, oh, don't mind it. It has been there for ages. It is just an old custom. And he left the monk and he said, have a good sleep. I'll see you in the morning. And the king rushed out hurriedly. So the monk had to rest there in that room. And as he lay on the pillow looking at the sharp swords, he could not sleep. All night he couldn't sleep, because he was worried that the sword would fall and chop off his neck, his head. So although he lay there, he couldn't close his eyes all night. So the following morning, the monk explained his trouble, and the king said, I will answer your question now. You asked me how I could be a worldly man of pleasures, how I could be more spiritual than those who have given up everything. Well, here is the explanation. When one knows that death is certain, how can the pleasures of the world sway him away? How can the worldly duties limit his eyes from the supreme goal? So in simple terms, what the king was saying is, just as the monk had experienced, he couldn't sleep all night because of the sword in the form of death hanging above his head. In the same way, death is hanging above all our heads, including King Janaka's. So knowing that the sword of death could fall and kill him at any moment, how could he enjoy anything? Even though he was a king, he had a whole kingdom and wealth and opulence and fame and respect. Because of death hanging above his neck, he was not interested in all of these things. Just as the monk couldn't sleep on the soft bed, and on the luxurious soft bed, because of those swords. So that is the wisdom of King Janaka. There is another beautiful illustration of King Janaka's detachment. So we said that he was a king, he carried out his duties, but he was never attached to anything. So let's hear a story about King Janaka's detachment. So there is so King Janaka had a spiritual teacher. He was called Yajnavalkya, and in the ashram, King Janaka would he was a student, the disciple of this guru, and he was the favorite disciple of this guru actually. And the guru would never start his lessons if King Janaka wasn't there. So all the disciples understood this Janaka. How is he he's a teacher's pet? Why our guru loves him the most, and he will not even start speaking unless Janaka is here in the class. So they were a bit envious of Janaka, but actually the teacher, he liked Janaka because King Janaka was such a very serious student, and he imbibed all the teachings of his guru and executed them. So a guru will obviously will love his disciple if the disciple follows his instructions. So that's why Janaka was the favorite. So disciples, they were envious, rebellious. They thought their guru was being very partial to Janaka, and that was not right. So Yagnavalkya wanted to show the glories of Janaka Maharaj to the other disciples. So one day, the sage created an illusion of fire burning the city of Mithila. Now, when the disciples heard that there was a fire, immediately they jumped up and they ran out to save their belongings and their family, and they were very worried they couldn't sit in the class. So all the disciples got up and left immediately. But Janaka kept sitting. He did not feel perturbed. He said he was just sitting there. So then Yagnavalkya asked him, so why did you not get up and leave? And he said, infinite indeed is my wealth, of which nothing is mine. If Mithila is burnt, nothing that is mine is burnt. So basically, he said that nothing belongs to him. It all belongs to the Supreme Lord. So why would he run to Mithila? If Mithila got burnt, that wasn't his property. It wasn't his. Whereas the disciples, they considered all their material possessions as theirs to save. And so yes, this is how detached King Janaka was, how wise he was. So coming to the Ashtavakra Gita. So Ashtavakra is the personality we see here in the picture on the right. This great personality, he was the guru of King Janaka. So King Janaka would regularly instruct, Ashtavakra would regularly instruct King Janaka and give him instructions. So the Ashtavakra Gita is a conversation between Janaka Maharaj and Ashtavakra. It's a song over self-realization. Now Ashtavakra, who we see on the right, is a great personality. So there is a story of how he became deformed in 8 places. And it goes like this. So once there was a student of the scriptures who could not support his family. He would work hard all day, every day, and then read aloud the holy language of sacred verses late into the night. So that person, that man, he was considered very learned and very scholarly, and he would instruct others. So one day he was reciting these verses, and his wife was sitting there. Now his wife was pregnant with Ashtavakra, this personality we see on the right with the deformities. His wife was sitting there, and she was pregnant with the son of this great scholar. She was sitting beside him in the dim room, listening as her beloved husband chanted the ancient verses. Now, one late night, when she was in her 8th month, Ashtavakra, who was inside her belly, who had been listening and therefore had become enlightened, so from inside her belly, he said to his father, "Sir, please be attentive. You are mispronouncing that verse." So basically, he dared to point out that his father had made a mistake. And the father was so, he was tired and short-tempered. He was really enraged at being corrected by an unborn child. So the father cursed the baby to become deformed in 8 places in his body. And because the father he had built up merit, his curse took hold, and so Ashtavakra, the child, was born deformed with 8 crooks in his body. And so the name Ashtavakra, Ashta means 8, so Ashtavakra is the name which means 8 bends. So anyone who saw him would be laughing. He was like a crippled child, but he was very enlightened. So Ashtavakra took birth in this family to reveal in simple words the essence of mystical experience. So King Janaka became Ashtavakra's disciple. And so this book, Ashtavakra Gita, is the song of the eightfold cripple, or Ashtavakra Gita. And so Ashtavakra, actually, he wasn't very keen on accepting students. He had very, very few. But when when the king heard of the wisdom of Ashtavakra, he approached the boy as a humble student, and the boy accepted the king instantly as his disciple. He actually accepted the king without any of the trials he would put forward to this before accepting a disciple. So that's the Ashtavakra Gita that was spoken. So King Janaka became very enlightened by hearing the Ashtavakra Gita. Now there is another story about King Janaka and his greatness. So King Janaka, so let's take a look at this story. So this story illustrates how King Janaka is such a great personality that even associating with him can bring all auspiciousness. So we know the value of associating with a pure devotee of the Lord. It can deliver a person. So this is a story about Janaka Maharaj, how he visited hell once, and let's hear it. So Lord Anantashesh once narrated a wonderful account of how King Janaka visited the abode of Yamaraj, and this is a beautiful pastime from the Padma Puran. After a long life, Janaka Maharaj gave up his body through the process of yoga. And a divine airplane decorated with many bells descended, and Janaka Maharaj boarded it. On the way, the airplane came near the abode of Yamaraj, the Lord of Death. There, sinners were suffering punishment in millions of hells. When the wind that had touched the body of Janaka came to those sinful people, they felt great joy and their misery disappeared. So such as an exalted person like Janaka, that even the wind that touched his body brought relief to the sinners. Then those persons who were oppressed by sins, wanting to keep Janaka's association, began to lament. They spoke piteously to Janaka Maharaj. "O blessed one, please do not leave. We who are greatly tormented are feeling happy due to contact with the breezes that have touched your body." Hearing their words, the very righteous king became filled with pity, and he thought to himself, "If due to the touch of the breezes that have touched my body, I am bringing some happiness to the residents here, then I will stay in this place. This is heaven for me." Thinking like this, the king stayed there by the gateway to hell. After some time, Yamaraj himself, who inflicts severe torment upon sinners, came to that gateway. There he saw Maharaj Janaka, full of mercy and a doer of great meritorious deeds, standing by the doorway. Yamaraj smiled and said to Janaka, "O king, you are Sarva Dharma Shiromani, the crest jewel of piety. Why have you come here? This is a place for wicked sinners who have caused harm to others. Men like you who perform meritorious deeds do not come to this place. Only those persons who deceive others, who are engaged in criticizing others, or who are intent on stealing others' wealth come here and receive intense punishment from me." Yamaraj then said, "Those persons who do not remember Lord Ramachandra with their mind, words, or deeds, I throw into hell and boil them. Those who have remembered the Lord of the Goddess of Fortune, leave the sufferings of hell and quickly go to Vaikuntha." So King Janaka began to discuss the terms and conditions for the inmates to be liberated. So hearing the words of Yamaraj with great compassion, Janaka replied, "O Lord, out of pity on these beings, I shall not go to Vaikuntha. Although situated in this place, they are feeling some comfort due to the breezes blowing past my body. If you release all of these people living in hell, then I shall be happy and will proceed to Vaikuntha. Tell me, how can these miserable beings quickly be set free from hell and attain happiness?" So Yamaraj replied, "These persons have never worshipped Lord Vishnu. They have never listened to the transcendental accounts of the Lord's activities. How then can they be free from hell? O great king, if you desire to release them, even though they are great sinners, then give them the following religious merit possessed by you." Excuse me. "Once, upon getting up in the morning, you meditated with a pure heart upon Lord Raghunath, Lord Ramachandra, who is known as Mahapap Harabhidaha, the remover of great sins. Give them the religious merit which you obtained that morning, when with a pure heart you uttered Ram, Ram. Obtaining that merit, they will get freedom from hell." Hearing these words of the intelligent Yamaraj, the great King Janaka gave those persons the religious merit obtained by him from his birth. Excuse me. Janaka said, "Let these persons be released from hell due to the religious merit earned by me from birth by the worship of Raghunath." As soon as he said this, those persons dwelling in hell immediately were freed from their suffering condition and obtained divine bodies. They said to King Janaka, "O king, by your favor, in one moment we have been freed from miserable hell and will now go to the highest position, Parampadam." Seeing these now effulgent persons freed from hell, Janaka Maharaj, who desired the welfare of all living beings, was very pleased in his mind. All those persons praised the great King Janaka, the very treasure house of compassion, and they went to the spiritual world. Such is the glory of Janaka Maharaj. He is so compassionate that he liberated all these miserable sinners in hell by giving them his religious merit. So Janaka Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada.